the floor over you.
Walking the floor.
I'm walking the floor. Walking the floor over you.
Hola, senors and senoritas. It's walking the floor time. Yes, yes. I am Chris Shiflett, your host as always. And I got a good episode for you today. It's an overdue interview. It's way overdue. It's almost a year old, in fact. I'll explain that in a minute. But first, let's get to more pressing business, like tickets for my tour. My upcoming tour starts March 21st in Portland, Oregon. And we're going to run all the way down the West Coast and fly out to New York and go to Nashville, and we wind up in Atlanta on April 10th. Plenty of tickets left, especially in places like Missoula, Montana. So get on it. Get those tickets in advance before the shows don't sell out. What else is happening? Oh, I premiered a new song the other day, in case you missed it, on my man Zane Lowe on Beats One over there at Apple Music. Premiered my song Sticks and Stones, and if you go to my Twitter link, you can find the interview, and you can find it. It's also, the song is up in, you can stream it in Apple Music, you can buy it in iTunes, you can stream it over there on Spotify. Check it out. There's a live video floating around that we posted over there on Classic Rock. And if you pre-order my record on iTunes, my record West Coast Town, coming out April 14th, 2017, you're going to get yourself a bonus track. A little bonus track called Mrs. America. It's topical. Get it. Come on. That's all my plugging, my shameless plugging for the week. Let me plug for somebody else. As a matter of fact, I always do a little ad for Zounds.com, but this week I did something special, and I wrote a special little ditty for him. Here's my Zounds.com theme song. Zounds, Zounds, Zounds.com. Zounds is the place where I buy my plectrums. Zounds, Zounds, Zounds.com's. Their prices beat everyone. Zounds.com. Okay, that is sure to be racing up the charts soon. So in the meantime, let's get on over to this week's interview. Okay, now I owe Davey and Jade from Blaqk Audio and AFI an apology, because I did this here interview with them. It was like last spring, and they were getting ready to put out a new Blaqk Audio record at that time called Material that did come out, and I think they went on the road for it. And I should have put this out then, but I just got backlogged with just a million interviews, and it's been kind of like busy in walking the floor world. And so my deepest sincere apologies. This one's been sitting in the archives for a little while, but I'm finally getting it out. As a matter of fact, it took so long for me to get this out that AFI has since that time recorded and released a brand new record called The Blood Album. So, sorry, Davey and Jade. I hope they don't hold it too much against me. But it's a good conversation that we had. And let's get to it. This is Davey and Jade from Blaqk Audio and AFI on Walking the Floor. Check. I'm recording. Because this is where you get the good stuff.
This is where you get me being late for the first time.
You need to get you say some shit that you're gonna.
When he comes in, he's ladies frazzled.
Yeah.
So let's talk shit. Okay.
Here's who I hate in the industry.
We were actually just having a little chit chat about the No Effects book. I don't know if you've read that. Have you
No,
read that?
not yet. But Mike was kind enough to send it to me.
Yeah.
I just got it.
He sent
from
me a couple
management.
copies too. It's unbelievable.
Really?
So good.
Well, Chris is in it. So.
Oh,
Briefly.
yeah.
I made the grade.
Are you doing some
scandalous activities?
Yeah, is it scandalous?
Yes.
You are? Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. But it was brief. It was
It was a brief moment of scandal.
It was, I don't know if Mike even represented it this way, but I believe it's the story of the first time he ever did cocaine.
Oh, so not long ago relative to life.
As long, I mean, it feels like a long time
10
to
years
me.
ago, 12
no,
years
like
ago?
we're talking like the, 1998 or something? It was on a Gimme's trip to Which on one hand does not seem that long ago, but
Right.
when I count the
Right,
years, I'm
right.
like, holy.
As
Jesus,
opposed
that was a
to
long time ago.
1978.
Exactly.
Right.
Which I remember too.
Or 1988, which are
Exactly.
both possibilities.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you were responsible for that?
I don't think I was responsible, but I was there.
You were around.
Yeah. I'm not going to claim responsibility.
That's good.
But,
That's good.
Or maybe I should claim responsibility. I don't know. That might be a bigger draw.
How did the bandmates, I was told, of No Effects have different points of POV on the cocaine?
I think so.
I haven't read it. I don't know.
Yeah, but you got to read it. It's great. It was actually, it kind of phased me in a way too, because basically, to a man, everybody in the book, their personal story is like, I had a screwed up relationship with my dad.
Whoa.
So
Yeah.
I when I finished the book, my first day I went to my oldest son, who's 12. I was like, hey, we're cool, right? We're good, right? There's no beef.
I don't want to read your book, man.
Exactly. I was like,
Yeah.
we're I don't know. Made me want to go hug my kids. It was great.
I have a good relationship with my father, but he doesn't want to read my book either. Although he did.
So what's going on? You guys are about to leave leave to go on tour, right?
We are.
Yeah.
With Blaqk Audio.
Very exciting.
And is this something that you guys have toured before? I know this is your third record, right? But
Yeah.
have you been on the road with this before?
Only one real tour.
Right.
We've done a little bit here and there, but we did one tour in 2007.
And are you doing like a full-on tour, like going all over the place, or what's happening?
Yeah, all over the U.S. for the most part. We're flying to all the dates, so it's gonna be new for us.
Really? See, in listening to your record, I know it's just the two of you, right? Like you don't have there's not like a bunch of guys that you have to schlep around.
No.
So does this band open you up to going and playing like venues and clubs and festivals and things that you would never go see with a rock band?
It opens us up to it. We haven't been given a lot of opportunities to do that, but it does open us up to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're playing in June at the end of the tour. We're doing the BFD thing, the Live 105 radio show
Okay.
up in San Francisco, but we're playing the dance tent. So obviously we would never do that with a rock band. So.
Right.
Which we've done before. We've played the dance tent there before with Blaqk Audio. It's really fun.
Well, I know if for a lot of electronic bands or even DJs or whatever, just fly like their tour itineraries don't make sense to me, because I'm like LA, Santa Barbara, San Francisco, Portland, like that's how I
Yeah.
think of touring. But those guys are like Tokyo, Paris, New York, Florida, like.
And they do 2 a day.
Right, exactly. Like, are you guys doing that same kind of thing?
No, it'd be
Well-
great if we were.
And also
That comes with success that we don't have.
they're also on a private jet. We're on Southwest.
Right,
So
right.
right. Yeah, they are in private jets.
Well, for now, you're on Southwest. By this
Right.
time, at the end of the cycle, I mean, come on.
After that, it's just JetBlue.
You're working
Step up.
your way up the ladder. though.
Eventually coach
Business
Virgin.
select is what I'm like aiming for.
yeah.
I've never been in a band that had that was drum machines and sequencers and all that stuff. So pardon my ignorance, but I'm totally clueless as to sort of the technical side of that for when you're performing. I mean, when you have a set list, is it like when you're in AFI or whatever, where you get to a point, I don't want to do that song, we have to switch it out, or are things like programmed into your gear where you just have
That
to do
doesn't
it a certain way?
happen ever in anything that I'm in.
Yeah.
It's kind of set.
Right. Oh,
whether it's
yeah, we even in AFI or even back in the day, it was always like we wouldn't just be like, let's not play that right now.
Yeah.
We're just like, I think we're so in the moment that we don't have the mental capacity to make changes like that.
Yeah, it's been years. Like early on in AFI, I would do that, make little like calls on stage, like, we should play this or this, but not in years. And to answer your question, we cannot do that in Blaqk Audio. Correct?
We could.
We could.
We could, yeah.
We could do a skip, but we couldn't do an ad, right?
I mean, we technically could, I guess.
Wow.
So we're breaching new ground here. I like
who
this.
knew?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not.
Maybe I need to come on.
Let's not look forward to that.
Give us advice.
I'll hold up cue cards like,
You
skip
could
that one.
just stand and call. Yeah,
I'll
make
be like
calls.
more of a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no.
We should skip in the middle if it's not going well, if the crowd's not responding.
Well, you can always just end too. That's
You just hit space bar and then just
hey, we're
stops.
done.
Yeah.
Fuck you guys. That was great.
Oh man, I saw Purity Ring crash at Coachella a little bit. It was a really interesting crash. I'm glad I remembered because I wanted to ask you about it. They recovered very well. It was great. The
Who was
crowd-
this?
Purity Ring.
Okay.
They were great, and I just felt for them because the computer crashed for a moment, but the crowd didn't care. I mean, they were having such a great time, and most of them probably didn't recognize what was going on at all. But when it came back, it sounded like it didn't sound digital at all. The way it came back in, rather than cutting out and glitching out and then coming back in, it ramped up. It sounded like it was being cranked up. It sounded like it was like it went. It built like that.
I wonder if they were
Weird.
playing off an actual tape machine, which would be weird.
It
but it's
didn't look
possible.
analog. It was bizarre.
Wow.
I mean, maybe someone had fed me Molly water and I didn't know. Maybe the
That's
raw
only happened
ice
to
cream
us
sandwich
one
that I was
time.
eating had.
Right.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
We've only had our computer crash one time, which is with electronic music. Pretty much everything goes away. It's
Right.
not like the guitar becomes unplugged, but the bass, everyone's still playing.
Sure.
It's just like there's nothing
Silence.
for vocals.
I
guess.
feel like I've experienced that more. In our band, like they make fun of me because my pedal board's like 5 times bigger than anybody else's, so there's a lot of stuff on there, and so I'm always if anybody goes out in the show, it's always me.
Oh, it's you.
Just takes one shorty cable to go down and you're like down.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
inevitably stomp on all of those accidentally.
Well, sometimes Dave does.
Yeah.
I mean, just for
Yeah.
fun. Not accidentally. He comes,
He does
I'll
on
like, where's
purpose.
my? Why does that sound? And I'll look over, and then he's like laughing at me.
You're like, not funny.
You know, this isn't your first band or project or whatever outside of AFI together. You guys also have you're more like hardcore
Yeah.
sounding one. Does I mean, obviously there's a musical partnership here that's been in place for a long time. Does that create any tension with your AFI bandmates when you guys go off, or is
We're very polite and political with each other. So even if it did, I think
but bands are weird. Bands are fragile. I mean, any band is like, full of,
They
weird,
are, yeah.
weird vibes and energy just develop over years, and you get baggage and everything. So,
well, I'm sure there's certainly baggage, but like I say, one of the reasons why AFI's been around for 24 years,
I don't know,
25
25 years.
is it's very political, and everyone is very, there's not it's not confrontational at all.
Right.
So if you do have a problem, you either bury it or you bring it up in a polite way. So
if you have a problem, you just bear it.
So we think it's
I like
okay.
that plan. That's
It's
good.
probably
Maybe there's some
okay.
buried
Pretend
problems
that
that
there
we
is
don't
no
know about.
yeah.
Did you grow up in the Bay Area?
I did.
You originally, and are you
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Originally?
We're from a little north, like an hour north of San Francisco. So
Both of you guys?
yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, sort of.
I think of you so closely associated with East Bay. I
Yeah,
didn't know if that was where you went
I
to high
moved to
school.
the East Bay when I was 17.
Okay.
And so I lived there from 17 until very recently.
And was AFI your first band? I mean, I know you've been together since you started that band when you were in high school. So did you have bands before that?
No, it was my first band. AFI began when I was 15, and that band began in the town that Jade and I went to high school in, which was...
So you guys knew each other back then?
Yeah.
Right. Jade wasn't in
okay.
AFI, but Jade was in a couple of other punk bands from the same town. So AFI started in 1991, and when I was 15, and then when I was 17, I moved to Berkeley, and then I lived most of my life in Berkeley and Oakland from there on out. So that's
Right.
I was a kid when you met me.
And were you going to Gilman Street and all?
Oh,
Were you
of
around
course.
that scene?
Yeah,
when it was
very,
all happening
very-
with Op Ivy and all those bands?
very-
He worked at Gilman Street.
Oh, really?
Yeah, do you remember, like, if you worked at Gilman Street, then you got into the shows for free, and you had to work at Gilman Street to even possibly be allowed to rehearse there. And we were lucky enough to get you could only rehearse there on, like, once a month on a weekend or something. And it was, we eventually filled a slot. I think Neurosis left, and we got Neurosis's slots.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we used to rehearse at Gilman Street.
See, I missed that whole work.
Did
I
you
was in
really?
Southern California. I mean, I went to
Oh.
Gilman later on, but it was like after.
Chris, did you never live up there?
I never lived in the East Bay ever. I mean, I lived in San Francisco for years, but I didn't move up there till like the mid '90s. I moved
but
up
you
there at the
did
beginning of
live in-
'95.
But you did live in San Francisco.
But it's
okay.
funny, obviously Oakland and Berkeley and everything has become
Oh yeah.
a lot hipper over the years than
Yeah.
maybe it was at that time.
Far
But,
hipper.
but I could probably count on one hand the number of times that I even went to the East Bay when I lived in San Francisco. You know what I mean? Like, because
The
I
huge
didn't drive
divide.
anywhere. So
No,
you just
huge,
go down to
huge
the Mission
divide.
or
That's
whatever.
what there was that 7-inch that Jesse put out that we were on. This is Berkeley, not West Bay, because there was a cultural divide as well as the physical barrier of the Bay between the East and West Bay. East Bay was kind of like the kids, and West Bay was kind of grown up. You
I
know?
lived
I
in
don't know.
Berkeley.
I don't know if I was very grown up, but I probably wanted to be considered that way.
Yeah.
I lived in Berkeley for 10 years, and I never wanted to go across the bridge.
No.
Right.
I did not want to go over there.
No. Yeah. We'd be like, oh, it's in San
I
Francisco.
think
Jeez.
it was less about like what lay beyond the bridge, and for me, and just dealing with getting across the bridge.
Yeah.
Forget it.
It's probably part of it.
You know, like
How
to
do you
drive,
do
and
it?
if you
And then
got
BART,
drunk over
and
there,
if the
then
BART-
what? You
I
know,
don't-
leave your car in the East Bay. Like that's
You can't do that.
might as well have been in Texas.
And where the BART dropped you off and how you would get from there to, depending on what venue you were going to or where
Right.
you were going.
Yeah.
So it was hard, but
I'm curious how like that scene. I mean, that is a much mythologized era of punk rock and scene and sort of the history of punk rock. You know, and I'm wondering how that sort of formed
Impacted us?
your worldview. How has that stuck with you over the years? Sort of the mentality sort of associated with that scene, or has it not?
I mean, it's really hard to step back and say someone else might better say how it has affected us or not affected us. I mean, it was a really, really great community. And Jade and I were going to Gilman Street even before we lived in Berkeley. We would drive to go to the shows there, because so many great bands came, and it was such a great community, and it was run by the kids. Which was really neat. And, they let you work there and rehearse there. And it was really supportive. And, we grew up listening to punk rock, but we grew up listening to punk rock in isolation. So when we were very, very young, we really didn't have a scene other than our friends. So a lot of what informed us, I believe I speak for both of us, in our formative years was a combination of different scenes that we weren't a part of, like looking to other scenes, because we really didn't have one. And the one in greatest proximity was, of course, the East Bay Area scene, which was very unique. But also we were looking a lot to the past, to old DC and old New York and LA and Orange County. And we would find music from different places and fanzines and magazines from different places, and that really educated us on different communities that kind of created who we were. I remember specifically when AFI came to Gilman Street and started playing. What was going on then, what was really big then, was what was then called emo, which even those bands really did not like the term then, but then that term,
Nobody ever likes the term applied.
you don't want that. I mean, it's a ridiculous term, as a wise man once said. Isn't all music supposed to be emotional? But then it at least applied to a music that was really artful and actually good, which was this, what it was. It was, post-hardcore. And so that was really strong. And then Jawbreaker and Crimp Shrine were really huge. So every small band sounded like Jawbreaker and Crimp Shrine. And Operation Ivy had just finished, and Filth had just gone. And we showed up wanting to sound like Black Flag and The Descendants and Minor Threat, and the community was like, haha, aren't they cute?
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was no one was antagonistic really, but everyone was like, oh, look at these cute kids who want to be punk. Where's your white belt and backpack?
Really?
Kinda.
That's so funny. I mean, my perception of, I don't think I saw you in the super, super early days. I think you maybe even had an album out by the time I ever saw you guys.
Probably.
But that is not how I perceived you at the time.
Okay.
At all.
We're talking early.
Right. Okay. So we're talking before that.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah. Probably. By the time we had a record out, like we had great support. I say that, but it was all friendly. We weren't by no means were we outcasts. Everyone was really accepting for the most part. There's a couple things going on.
I was thinking about it on the way over here. I don't know if I'm doing that thing where I've combined multiple events into one memory, which seems to happen a lot the older I get. But I feel like the first time I saw you guys was somewhere maybe with Screw 32 or something. It might have even been in LA.
Sure.
Or like at the Palace or something. I don't know. Or maybe now that doesn't sound
I don't think we've ever played with Screw 32 at the Palace, but we've probably played, I feel like maybe we played like some house parties with Screw 32 down like South Bay or Orange County. But by that point, the first record probably would have come out.
Right.
Yeah. But we did used to play with Screw 32 all the time before before Answer That and Stay Fashionable, whatever that record was called, came out. But it was great. That whole era was really, really fun.
And what were you doing at that time? Because you weren't in the band yet, but you guys knew each other. So were you still up north of San Francisco, or had you been moved down to the East Bay too?
Yeah, I was going to UC Berkeley at that point.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, I moved down to go to Berkeley the semester he dropped out, and we actually had a class together, his last semester and my first semester. So I was going to college. I was in a hardcore band at the time, and like I was in a couple of bands, and so just kind of like, you know, I'd be at all the AFI shows, and I'd come up on stage and sing and stuff,
and sing on the records,
in the studio, like backing vocals.
Jade really heard his voice on Very Proud of You, right? Was it Very Proud of You?
Yeah. Lost my voice for like 2 weeks singing on that record, but yeah, so we were friends still.
And how did, like, going back a little bit actually before that, what was growing up like for you guys? Were your parents like supportive when you started going into a punk rock land? I mean, you said you both moved down there to go to Berkeley. So how'd that go over when you had to drop out to pursue your punk rock dreams?
Well, that didn't go well. I mean, there are different answers to those questions, I think, for both of us.
Sure.
You know, in a lot of ways, I had a lot of support from my parents, but in some ways they weren't very supportive. Certainly, they weren't excited when I told them I was dropping out of school to continue the band. But eventually they realized, okay, this is it. He's serious about this.
All right.
Although I'd been serious about it for a long time prior to dropping out of school. But I mean, my dad, like in the early days, AFI would rehearse in my parents' living room sometimes. And when we were rehearsing to record Answer That and Stay Fashionable, I remember rehearsing in my parents' living room, and Adam's drums like staining a carpet, and my dad would come in and sing backing vocals. He really loved it.
Really?
He has his first and only tattoo was an AFI tattoo that he got when he got a little more added to it. I can't remember. I think when the Sing the Sorrow record went gold, maybe he got like,
it's like, okay, this thing's
AFI
for real.
Tattoo.
Yeah, I'm getting that logo put on there.
and then when it went platinum, he got more added to it. Right. You know, I think that's what happened. It's funny because when
Diamond and he got full.
Yeah, because he knew that you could afford to take care of him forever.
That is untrue. I would quite the opposite, quite the reverse, really. If anything, well, actually, neither of us can afford to take care of either of us anymore. But no, he was just really, really a big supporter. He is a big supporter. Still is. He'll be at the Blaqk Audio show in Sacramento on
nice
Saturday.
It's such a funny world now. Like, you know, I have 3 boys, and the difference between how parents are sort of involved and appreciate and encourage kids now to, you know, be in rock and roll bands or punk rock bands or go to School of Rock, and it's almost like, and you know, I swear to God I don't do this, but it's almost like sports. You know, was when we were kids, where your parents are really involved now.
That's interesting.
And encourage, this is great. He's playing a Green Day song at this School of Rock performance. You know, that whole thing.
That's good.
I mean, who knows? It could be good and bad. I mean, I think there's something to be said for your kids have to go off in like a dark garage somewhere and smoke a joint with their friends and get weird and figure stuff out. You know what I mean? There is like that. I think rock and roll needs that to some extent. But then it would have been nice if somebody had given me some pointers early on to, you know, figure some things out. So I don't know. Who knows? The jury's out. I haven't gone that way with my kids, but it is very different from the experience that we all had growing up.
Oh yeah,
where you sort of you almost like not exactly hid it from your parents, but you know, parents weren't. My mom wasn't at my band's rehearsal in 10th grade.
No,
I'm like, it was great.
No. Punk is a different thing, though. You know, like when I first started listening to punk in the mid '80s, like I was listening to "I Saw Your Mommy" by Suicidal Tendencies. So my aunt came in and she's like, I saw your mom and your mommy's dead? Like, what the hell is this? She was very concerned.
Yeah.
So if we would have been listening to, you know, like Def Leppard or something, probably would have been okay.
Yeah.
But punk was a different thing. They didn't understand it.
Well, me too.
That part was
I
okay.
tell you what, a funny story. The only record that my mom ever really got offended about that I had was in junior high. The first Wasp release was
Fuck Like a Beast.
12 Fuck Like a Beast,
Fuck Like
which
a
I don't know if
Beast.
you remember the
the
cover.
chainsaw.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like the
well, you probably
Yeah.
even knew about it the same way I did because it was part of Tipper Gore's. That Wasp and Fuck Like a Beast was one of the ones she was really angry at. So it was really appealing.
Like, I gotta go.
You're like, I got it. That's got to be good. That's got to be good.
Yeah.
She like made the list of what you need to know.
Right, exactly. I mean, that was the one time I remember my mom going like, "What the fuck is this thing?"
Yeah. It's so funny because it's so tame.
Yeah, completely.
Wasp is so
Although I
tame.
still find myself listening to that record. I mean, now it's bundled with the first Wasp record, which
Whoa.
and nobody believes me, but that's a great.
Is it
record.
good?
In the sort of context of that era
Yeah.
of heavy metal music?
I didn't.
That one holds up.
I wasn't really that familiar with Wasp.
Love Machine.
That's interesting. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Blaqky Lawless.
Yeah,
Blackie Lawless still going.
Yeah, Blackie Lawless.
Still going.
Are they
Guitar
still
player
playing?
not doing so good. I don't think.
Blackie Lawless must be real crusty by now.
Yeah, but I think he's still out there doing it.
That's good.
Yeah, the guitar player. There's some. If you want to have a good chuckle,
Oh,
just
yeah.
Google Chris Holmes.
I've seen Chris Holmes.
Wasn't he the bass player? He was the guitar player.
He was a guitar player.
Oh yeah.
He's just like whacked out.
Well, he's in the decline too.
Well, there's that whole famous thing, but then there's a way more recent thing of him. This video, it's him like in some really like in the south of France around like a bunch of boats. There's like yachts and stuff.
There's a couple.
It's very
Yeah.
bizarre.
Sounds great.
And it's this real like grumpy video about like fuck everything's lame and. It makes no sense. You gotta.
Wow.
I don't know. We're digressing here. But that's
Sounds
okay.
pretty good though.
Okay, so
Wasp.
so you eventually you joined the band. How did you wind up joining the band? After all those years of being close friends and associates.
We were living in a squat basically, which is like a decommissioned frat house that turned into like this sort of squat situation. We're paying rent, so I guess it was a squat.
Yeah, but it was close. Matt Freeman,
Sure.
he called it the squat. He's like, this is a squat. I was like, I'm going to drop you off at the squat.
Yeah. I don't know who you're paying rent to, but this is a squat.
So he lived in basically like a closet, and he was on tour, and so I moved in to live in there while he was gone.
A lot of people did. Would live in my room while I was away.
So he came home, and they kicked out their old guitar player, and I was just living in his room. And I was a guitar player, and we were friends.
Right.
And so it was just like I was in the right place at the right time. But I think you guys are probably going to ask me anyway.
Well, I mean,
but-
yeah, that's that's kind of deflating the reality of it a
Right.
little bit. Quite a bit. Yeah, I even forgot that you lived in the room. That's right. That made it easier. I'm like, Jade and I had known each other for many years, and I had always wanted to work with Jade personally,
Right.
Because I knew what a amazing songwriter he is.
Right.
And so when it came time for AFI to get a new guitarist, I suggested, hey, let's ask Jade. I mean, he's phenomenal. He's so talented. And yeah, I think he and his girlfriend are living in my room right now. So I guess I could just ask him. Right. But I totally forgot. I forgot you were actually living there at the time, but I had always wanted to work with Jade because he's really so very talented, and I asked Jade, and he said yes, and we
started writing right then.
Yeah, we
I was
started
right
writing
there.
Right.
immediately. Started writing songs, and as
what-
far as
what album
AFI
did that
goes,
turn into?
that turned into
Black
Black Sails in the Sunset. So it was after the A Fire Inside EP, I think, which kind of pointed the direction that we were heading, and
Right.
then once Jade and I started writing, it really that's really where AFI turned and became what AFI is to us and to most people.
And did you get pushback from like the hardcore scene at that point?
Oh,
New member, new sound. that sort of
it
thing? Was
wasn't new member, but yeah, when Black Sails in the Sunset came out, people were freaked out.
Right.
Freaked out.
I mean, it's. I was thinking about this too. Is there was a point there where I didn't see you guys live for a few years, and then saw you. I don't know what album it would have been on, but it was somewhere like a Warped Tour. Or I'm thinking, or
If it was
Festival,
that,
something
then
like that.
if it was Warped Tour, then it was Art of Drowning.
It was somewhere with
It was
a
when
really
we were
big crowd.
Were we
and-
on tour together? Like
I
were
might have
we
been there with the
whole
gimmicks,
time?
yeah,
right?
but I
and
don't
I was
remember.
on your
I'm
stage
fuzzy.
drinking virgin margaritas.
Could have been.
Okay, it was Art of Drowning because that's the only time AFI did the whole Warped Tour, so it was.
But
probably-
you sounded different, you looked different, and the whole place was going mental. And I remember just going like, "Whoa, when did that happen? They're totally different. That's rad." Look,
2001.
okay,
That's when it was for sure.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. That was Art of Drowning had hit by that point. And so, I mean, every record that AFI put out was really polarizing because
Right.
each of them sounded quite different. And,
but they all grew,
and they
right?
grew. Yeah.
Right.
They all grew. And so, with that growth, we lost people and we gained people. And, when we played, the owner of the record label that we were on, Black Sails in the Sunset, he said, "I don't get it."
Was that
Yeah.
Nitro?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, "I don't get it." We also tried
didn't
to.
like it.
He didn't like it, and but Chris, who brought us to that label, really did like it. And a lot of people. I mean, because that record doesn't really fit. I mean, if you look at Shut Your Mouth, it was a pretty straightforward hardcore record in a sense. But then Black Sails became something else, so a lot of people didn't know what to do with it. But a lot of people also really, really loved it.
And when did you guys figure out, like, oh, this is working?
Oh, we liked it.
We loved it.
We didn't give a fuck what people thought.
Yeah, we didn't know.
That's not what we're trying to do.
I started seeing reviews of it in metal magazines where metal guys were loving it. And I was like, whoa.
Right.
People think this sounds like metal? Because to me, it was just like punk, hardcore, you know.
Something.
Yeah.
But it was such an amalgam to everyone else.
Yeah, a lot. I think that's when. Yeah, you're right. That's when the metal, all the metal comparisons came in. Like that record and Art of Drowning. Like I remember hearing a lot of like Maiden references and
It's weird because it's
did
no
you
solos.
grow up listening to any of that stuff? I mean, it sounds like you.
Yeah, I did.
Right, yeah.
I never listened to metal.
but Jade didn't, and
See, to me,
Jade was
that's
writing the music.
It's the dirty little secret of the '90s punk rock world. Is that it was all, not all, but it was a lot of people, myself included, that grew up listening to Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, and
Motley
then
Crue.
somewhere along the line figured out, like, got a Descendants record or something.
Right.
Whoa, that's rad too. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
there's a lot of that influence in the
I would
Fat
think
Records
so.
world and Epitaph and Nitro and all those bands. You know.
I don't know how I missed it. I'm like the only one that just somehow missed being a metalhead at some
Well,
point.
I mean, it's so unsavory.
not too late.
You probably purposely stayed
But,
away from it.
That's true. I gotta
You
I gotta
know,
get fucked
I
like a
mean,
beast when I get home. I'm gonna like,
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny. It's the great thing about getting older is there was like a long stretch, like probably around the time that I met you, where I didn't want to admit that was where my roots were. You know what I mean?
you couldn't really talk about that when it was close to it.
Right, exactly.
Because it was really the enemy.
Right. Yeah.
That's true. When we were
It was
growing up,
the enemy.
metalheads,
Yeah, metalheads didn't
were
like
as bad
us.
as jocks for us.
Yeah.
Like, metalheads would try to fight you as much as jocks in our town, at least.
Yeah.
So they were. I don't want to listen to what they're listening to because that's like my enemy.
That's the other team. But man,
But when you're a kid and you see metal records like "Fuck Like a Beast," of course you're gonna gravitate towards that.
Totally, because it looked crazy. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, there's a guy with his, he's got a codpiece with a buzzsaw.
I loved hair metal.
Right.
I still
Oh,
love
yeah. I'm 100%.
I mean,
I got to tell you,
Photograph
I just
and
played
Look What the
soccer
Cat
a
Record
couple
Did.
weekends ago with Iron Maiden. No
Whoa.
joke. Yes. No, it
which
was
is not hair metal.
Well, okay, it's not right,
Let's-
but it's metal.
let's
and
not
it was like,
discredit Maiden.
It was a crazy thing. It was actually it was Steve Harris from Iron Maiden,
Wow.
then some of their crew, and then I guess his son's band is on tour with them. So he was really the only guy from Iron Maiden in the thing. But they all had Iron Maiden kits on, and it was like a random. It didn't come through rock and roll either. I play in a pickup game. And one of the other guys that I didn't even know was like, hey, man, there's a band, Iron Maiden, in town this weekend. They want to organize a soccer game. Any of you guys want to play? I was like, I'll do it. Me, I'll do it.
There's a band.
Yeah, a band called Iron Maiden.
Called
I was
Iron
like,
Maiden.
what? Yeah.
Heard of that?
I know.
They're great,
crazy.
man. Bruce Dickinson. Oh man, he
Still,
can sing.
I don't know how that
Yeah.
guy keeps his
I
pipes
can't-
together, man.
I
He
don't know
still
how he
sounds
sings
the
like
same,
that.
like just as
Yeah.
good.
He is perfect.
I mean, being a singer, like you're on a different tour when you're the singer.
It's horrible.
Yeah, the whole basically from the time you leave your house till the time you come home, you're like, oh, I think I got a sore throat. I need some tea.
Just complete, yeah.
And what at what point, or maybe I don't know, maybe I'm sure you guys have a different take on this than I do, but it seems like your band tapped into that kind of super fandom that only like a rare breed of bands, like maybe the Misfits or the Ramones, bands like that, those really crazy fans that like.
Let's not call them crazy.
Those wonderful fans,
Wonderful,
those
dedicated.
hardcore fans. It's like a different kind of fandom. I feel like.
Yeah, they're very passionate,
Right.
and they have been actually from the very beginning.
Right.
Are you asking how?
I don't know. I guess like
'Cause I'm not sure.
Maybe what's your take on it?
I mean, I don't know. People have asked us this question many times over the years, and we're very lucky to have this question be relevant to something that we create, to be able to make something that people are so passionate about, to
Right.
want to get lyrics tattooed on them, or our imagery tattooed on them, or our names tattooed on them,
Right.
or actually portraits of us tattooed on them.
Which always look great.
See, I've seen some. I have recently seen a portrait of me that is phenomenal. I think I have it on my phone. I'll show it to you later.
Right.
It's It's wild.
We have some wonderful fan art at
It's
our
wild.
studio.
Oh, I'm
that
certain.
is like,
We had some great ones.
when
Yeah.
you see the way somebody interprets your face, you're like, whoa, do I really look that weird?
And yes, we do. But yeah, I mean, to create art, to follow us around the country, to every show, to cross international borders to see us. I remember someone saying that they broke out of jail to see us once.
Like, don't tell me that.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, I remember we were in Mexico City doing a signing, and this young, pretty girl comes to she must have been 16, and she has this giant AFI tattoo on her
Oh,
neck.
yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh,
and I had seen a lot of AFI tattoos at that point, but I'm like, wow, this is
my.
crazy,
Don't worry, she can get that covered up with a big Motorhead Ace of Spades.
Okay, she'll be fine.
Easy.
She'll
I
be
mean,
fine.
it'll
She
you have
probably
to go
already
around
has.
the edges a little bit, but it'll be fine.
It'll probably be like a big Calvin Harris tattoo. Or
Yeah,
something.
there you go.
You can make it say Zed.
How long into you being in the band did you guys start thinking about or working on Blaqk Audio? When did that start to take shape?
It was quick because it was around 2001 or maybe even
When
a
was
little.
that first album came out?
Well, the first record came out 2007.
Yeah, we started it. We started it way before that. Like it was only a couple years after I joined, and when I first started learning how to program electronic music, I was immediately like, because we were listening to electronic music a lot, so I was like, let's do this. I know how to do it now.
Did you already play keyboards? Or
I
was
could
that
play.
something you
I grew
learned?
up playing piano a lot because my mom's an amazing composer and pianist.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you have artist parents as well?
My mom is definitely. My dad was a little bit of a musician, but more casually. But my mom, from being the smallest child, I would listen to her play, Beethoven and Mozart, and also she composes. So that was like an early influence on me. So, but it really, doing electronic music is more about learning how to do it, the production of it, rather than being able to play a keyboard.
Right.
Because you have to do everything. You got to do the beats. You got to do the bass line. You got to be everything.
Right. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Like, how is that different in your songwriting process when you're working on each of the different projects? If it's or bands, if it's AFI, are you writing that on acoustic guitar? Or with Blaqk Audio, you're writing that on a keyboard? Are you using different instruments to write when you do that?
Yeah, I mean, you do use a keyboard a lot because you're doing synthesizers,
Right?
Or you draw notes in even. Like a lot of guys, these guys that are, making $20 million a year, they just draw notes in. They don't even know how to play a keyboard. And it's
Really?
Yeah. And so drawing notes in is a very accepted and normal thing.
Right.
So, it's it's almost like mathematics.
I don't know
You're
what that
placing
means.
stuff on a grid.
What does that mean? Do you know what that means,
Are you
Chris?
there when he's doing this?
I don't know what drawing notes means. No. I write a melody and a word.
Well, like if you're playing like a chord on a keyboard, like, and that's the chord in the song.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to play a keyboard, you use your cursor, and there's a little virtual keyboard, and you draw in the notes of the chord on there.
Yeah.
And so that's how a lot of people do it.
It's what smart people do.
That's
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
That's how smart people play music.
Yeah.
So it's almost like mathematics in that way because it's
Sure.
like on a grid and everything. You're fitting stuff to a grid rhythmically, and so.
It is like mathematics. It's funny that so many of us, and I'm not, obviously you guys went to college. I didn't make it out of high school, but it's funny that so many of us flail so hard academically when really music is just math. I mean, it's just like combinations of numbers, really.
I was good at math until I stopped many, many years ago.
Oh, don't brag, Dave.
I was.
Come on.
We're talking about high school, though.
I wasn't even good enough for that.
Yeah, how do you know you quit?
That's true. That's
You
true.
quit. You might
Oh,
have
well,
been.
now I got to feel bad. Now I
Now
feel
you-
bad.
It's not too late to go back.
Yeah, there's still
true.
time.
If I can be a metalhead, you can go back to school.
That's
Yeah.
true. We'll do it together. We'll go back to school together, and you can get into metal, and then I'll guide you through that
Thank you.
process. Yeah, it'll be good. So, but what is that when you're? Can you talk a little bit about the actual making of your Blaqk Audio records? Because to me, when I listen to them, I hear, and like I said, I don't know, I'm not well versed in electronic music, but I hear sounds like keyboard sounds and stuff that remind me of the electronic music from when I was in high school, like New Order or stuff like that. Are you consciously sort of drawing from some of those bands?
They're definitely an influence because I grew up listening to that stuff. So, I definitely put some of that in there because I love those sounds,
Right.
and there's something very timeless about that. And because quote unquote EDM is such a huge thing now, you don't really want to sound like that and use all those sounds because
Right.
we've been around for 15 years now. So if we try to jump on that bandwagon, that's just going to seem false. So I love those sounds from New Order and Depeche Mode, so.
Right.
But as far as the songwriting, when you listen to current electronic music, it's not in a traditional song form, like what you and I would write, which is
Right.
a verse, chorus, middle, eight, chorus.
Yeah.
But that's how we do it. We write in a very song-oriented form, and we have a singer. So that's why we're a lot different than those bands. So when I'm writing, I'm probably writing differently than most electronic acts because I'm writing like a song like I would write in AFI, like that,
Right.
those song forms.
It was actually we generally don't have specific intents when we create music,
Right.
but when we started Blaqk Audio, that was our intent. Was a lot of the electronica we were listening to didn't have traditional song structures and weren't vocal oriented. Whether it was the late 90s, the big beat stuff where you would just hear a little vocal hook, which is similar to what's going on with what is considered to be EDM today, or even the future pop and industrial that was going on, which would have very long songs that would kind of go on and on and on, and you might not hear a chorus twice, or you might only hear one chorus. And we wanted to do it, but let's make songs.
Right.
Considering
how much AFI's sound evolved over the years, when you guys started putting out Blaqk Audio, did you then you said you got pushback from some AFI fans over the years? Is that as your sound changed?
Oh.
How was it with your AFI fans when Blaqk Audio came out? Did people embrace it? Were people like, what? That's not punk rock. What are you doing?
They embraced it very much, actually. The Sex Cells record was so well received. It was really great. I've said this before, but the reality is that in order to be an AFI fan at the point in which Blaqk Audio was born, you really had to be open-minded, because as we were discussing earlier, AFI doesn't really fit anywhere. So it's not like we're a punk band. We'd long stopped being a punk band. We'd lost all our punk fans in like 96.
Right.
In fact, I tell this story, but I remember when the record came out in 96, the second record, I remember going into Gilman Street and seeing, those little like 14 by 8 promo posters that they used to do in the early 90s.
Yeah.
I came into Gilman Street and someone had taken all of the promo posters that they found somewhere and made a giant $sign on the wall.
You guys are selling like 100 records of that.
Yeah. We had sold. That record probably sold like, I don't know, the first week it probably sold like 6,000 copies or something like that.
Well, that'd be a number one
record. Now that would be a number one record. But in 1996, that was not.
Like, Davey, you're on KP. Here's your mop.
Right,
Get to work.
Like, oh, okay. But point being, as far as the closed-minded fans who really stuck to one genre of music, we had lost them years before there was anything like Sex Cells.
Right.
And
did you get some of those fans back when you did Extremist?
oh, I doubt it.
We probably lost even more of our fans doing that because
Yeah,
really?
Well,
We're like, hey, you can't come back here.
Well, lyrically, it's very it's very
intent.
off-putting. It's very like
no one wants to
fuck
hear
you,
that.
everyone.
Yeah,
Right.
there's such a small group of people who can relate to what Extremist is. So
Right.
yeah, Jade's probably right. It just really says it.
Interesting. So then, how is, with all these different things going on, first off, it makes me wonder, how the fuck do you guys have the time?
We don't. We really don't.
But also, how do you decide what song's going to go to which band?
That's pretty easy.
Is there any overlap there?
There has been one that's started out on one band and ended up on the other band.
Right.
But for the most part, if I'm doing something, Blaqk Audio is purely electronic. We try to keep it that way. So
Right.
in AFI, we don't try to do too many purely electronic songs. So
Right.
there's been a
But
lot
you
of
could
it.
play those songs on guitar, and it would
You could, yeah.
sound like, not
we
totally
want, yeah.
out of place, right?
Yeah, and I've taken songs that's been electronic and been like, turn this into an AFI song, just play that synth part on the guitar,
Right,
and vice
right.
versa.
Yeah. Whereas Extremist was, purely a means of, creating a straight edge band.
Right.
And so that was just straight edge hardcore.
Okay.
Yeah,
And who else was involved in that? Or was it just you two?
just us two.
Oh, okay.
But the band, when we played, Josh James, Chris Sorensen, and Val from Loma Prieta would join us, which is great. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
And then, so what's going on? Are you working on something with the guys from No Doubt?
Yeah.
What's that going to be?
Well, I can't really talk too much about it yet, Chris.
Okay,
but
okay.
yeah, it's me and the boys.
Right.
And
It's not called No Doubt? Or?
It is not called No Doubt. It is not No Doubt songs. It's all original material. We still don't have a name.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, we could come up with one here and now.
Let's not.
The Fuck Like a Beast band.
That sounds
Well,
good.
Wheeler Walker has some great song titles, so maybe we can.
Are you familiar with this
Yeah.
with this record?
Yes.
Yeah, this record's pretty amazing. I interviewed him a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Pretty unbelievable.
really?
Look at this
Right.
song.
Have you checked this thing out? You got to listen to this record.
I'm sure your listeners already are aware of this. No?
Oh, but the
I'm looking at a 12-inch called Redneck Shit by
Yes.
Wheeler Walker Jr. And
So any of those song titles probably good.
titles include Redneck Shit, Beer, Weed, and Cooches.
Cooches. That's right.
Not
Not to mention, I think the hit is "Fuck You, Bitch."
Can't fuck you off my mind. Fuck you, bitch. This is great. This. I'm not even going to read that. I'm not even going to read that.
We just lost all our advertisers.
I'm not even
going to
read that.
We're going to have to bleep this episode heavily.
This one, that sucks.
Well, this is a funny thing. If you haven't heard of this record, it's he's actually a comedian, Ben Hoffman, who put this record together.
I
But
didn't
it's
know.
actually a great record. Like
So it's performance art.
it is, yeah.
That's funny.
But he's he grew up in I think Kentucky or something. He's a country music fan. He knows country very well.
So it's great.
And he went to Nashville and made the record with his producer Dave Cobb, who's done like Jason Isbell and Sturgill Simpson and Chris Stapleton and all these cats. So it sounds amazing. It sounds like
It sounds
a
real.
great country record from like 1980. You know, and
So it's satire.
but then the songs are like you're laughing. And, like it makes my wife really angry when I put it on in the house, but I kind of can't stop listening.
So it's
This
like
could
a David Allan Coe kind of thing.
yeah, except David Allan Coe's not kidding.
Not kidding. Right? Except this is satire and that's real.
Yeah.
This could be an anal cunt track listing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
He's like the country anal.
So you guys are leaving tomorrow or the day after?
Day
And then-
after.
so what's next then? New AFI record anytime soon or?
We're working on AFI after this, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to finish my book before we leave on Wednesday. I think I can.
Oh, you're actually writing a book. You referenced that earlier, but I thought you were just joking.
Oh no, I was serious. I
Oh.
wrote that, but I was talking. They're novels though. They're not about me.
Oh, okay. Wait, is this something? This is something I'm totally unaware of. Is this something you've already done?
Yes, I wrote a book that came out like 2 years ago, and I'm just finishing up the second one now. I'm just copy editing it. I'm trying to get the copy edits done before we leave, so as not to have to even bring my laptop on the road.
Because you weren't busy enough already.
Yeah, I need.
With the 8 bands that you're in and touring
it's,
and whatever.
that's a difficult thing to actually get done whilst writing music.
sure.
Yeah, it'd be easier to not do it, but
Right.
I enjoy doing it. So.
Right. Just because you have a fire inside.
I suppose so.
That was stupid. Sorry. Thank you guys for coming down.
Thanks for having us,
I'm
Chris.
sure you guys are super busy, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you having us. Nice talking to you. See you.
Yeah, that was Davey and Jade from Blaqk Audio and AFI right here on Walking the Floor. Sorry, boys. Sorry that took so long. Make sure you go to, blackaudio.com. And they spell black with a Q. I should point that out. Blackaudio.com. Find out what's going on with Blaqk Audio. You can also find them on the Twitter at Real Blaqk Audio. Or if you're curious about AFI, you can find them on the Twitter at AFI. That's easy. Or go to afireinside.net. I bet they're out on the road right now. Or will be soon coming to a town near you. Davey and Jade. AFI, Blaqk Audio. That's it for this week. Make sure you get on over to iTunes, pre-order my record West Coast Town, get your bonus track, and while you're there, listen to the sweet, sweet past episodes of Walking the Floor. They're all there, man. Just look for them. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week. Adios, amigos!